You know, it's like it's such a.
No, I
feel
hear
like
you.
it's a lose-lose in a sense.
I mean, I hope that, like, I try very hard to make it so that the things that I've experienced, I try to keep that in mind when I'm talking about players, right? I try to have that empathy
For sure.
and understand that I have a job to do, but also understand, like, I'm not here to play gotcha.
For sure.
I say to, you've heard me say this before, I always say, I want to be two things. I want to be accurate and I want to be fair.
For sure, yep.
And if I'm not one of those two things, you might not always like me, but this is my number. Please call me. And people have called and they've said that. And I say that oftentimes to before, especially before I'm talking to folks about something that is sensitive or tough, because these things come up. And it is hurtful.
In a very honest and transparent sit down with NBA player DeMar DeRozan, ESPN's Malika Andrews was really open on the backlash from NBA fans she has experienced over the years.
Like, I think that's okay to say sometimes. It hurts. Even, it doesn't matter if it is someone who is credible or someone with a big platform, or if it's someone in their mom's basement just firing off a post. Sometimes it is hurtful when that seeps through, particularly for me when it's not true.
Right.
And that's been the hardest part for me sometimes, is stomaching the falsehoods, particularly, you know, this you hate black men, or think that couldn't be farther from the truth, and using my family or the way that my family looks as some sort of evidence of that. And that is just untrue.
For sure.
And it's just unkind. And you know, we all have jobs to do, and we do our best. I try to do my best to show up every day in a way that you guys know what I'm about. And that doesn't mean that I've covered every story perfectly. It doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes, but I think I'm pretty good at saying to you guys in particular, could have been better there.
No question.
And that's, I think, what I hope we can keep as social media continues to be bigger in the world, that kindness and that humanity that I worry sometimes we're losing.
So let's expand on this, because I covered the story back in October of 2023 when it felt unjust, and many NBA fans, their gripes may have started here.
It said in the numerous news reports it was a consensual relationship that violated organizational policy. So only he is in violation of the company policy. The woman who elected to have a consensual relationship with him is not in violation. He gets to get mentioned and put on Front Street. We don't know who she is. What about the other women within the Celtics organization who have been victimized because wrong assumptions have been made by their involvement? If you knew exactly who it was, that would alleviate the concerns of all the other women who have had their names paraded out into the streets. What about them? You ain't thinking about that. So here we are. We're throwing him out to pasture. And again, Ime Udoka cannot be defended.
What's your reaction now after hearing the press conference?
Well, Molly, thank you. If I could first start with this. Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that, I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me...
And then there was the Brandon Miller situation, which then led to one YouTuber using it to clout chase.
Miller, his name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder in the fatal shooting of 23-year-old Jamia Harris in January. The University of Alabama has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all, into how teams are evaluating him?
Yeah, Malika, part of the
I don't think it would be brought up at all if it wasn't for Malika just bringing it up on national television right now.
And bet every player, whether you have the second pick in a draft or...
And by the way, if you look at this man's channel right here, he has made it a point to continue going after Malika Andrews over the years. And yes, he uses NBA footage, which is a clear cause and effect to growing your YouTube channel, but it cannot be understated. He also put in the time to put together those videos and content to reach over 1 million subscribers. There is influence here, okay? Same with a faceless YouTube channel called Self Talk, who has done, and we counted, over 50 videos annihilating Malika Andrews at every turn, every angle you could possibly imagine. And who did they praise in the process? Jason Whitlock. They praise the Blazes' Jason Whitlock, a guy who cannot keep a job in mainstream media with those outlets and has gone to the only place that will call his show home for the time being until something else happens, because there's just a rinse, wash, repeat sort of history with him. Ditto with another channel called Swish Nation, who just demolished Andrews over and over and over again. So let me ask you before we continue, how would you feel? How would you feel if that were you and you were continually targeted over and over and over again? You probably wouldn't feel very good, would you?
Now that surfaced late last week, the league is looking into allegations that Thunder guard Josh Giddey had an improper relationship with an underage girl. In a since-deleted post, an anonymous social media user claimed a girl who was seen with Giddey in videos and images, some of which include explicit captions, was a junior in high school at the time. Giddey, who is 21, he declined to comment on Friday.
And yet when this went down, we covered this as well. Former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Des Bryant, who has a history of his own, by the way, and is one to talk about morality, tweeted to his more than 3 million followers, "Malika Andrews, you went out of your way to crucify Brandon Miller on draft day over something he didn't even do. Why haven't," this is false, "why haven't you said nothing about Josh Giddey?" She did. "I advise you not to make this a black or white thing. Your parents really raised you wrong, and just because you went to a private school, don't make you better. You appeal, and I know you're kind. You just a puppet. I don't know how a former or current NBA player could sit there across from you and look at you with some kind of respect. The only person that is losing respect, if you even had any for them, is Des Bryant in this case." Jamil Hill would reply, "With all due respect, your tone and approach to Malika was out of line. You made it personal by bringing in how she was raised. You didn't bring any of that energy to any of the male broadcasters. That is true. She wasn't on the air when the news about Josh Giddey happened and addressed it when she returned." Exactly. So they're creating a false narrative to hop on the train of Malika hate because it scores points with the base. When really, that's a train that you should just let go through. You should not be going all aboard on it because it is a hateful, deceitful train. Sadly, with all these attacks, people felt emboldened, and thus Andrews would be harassed and stalked by Ahmed Abubakar, a 41-year-old New Jersey resident who had a restraining order against him filed by Malika Andrews. It got to that point. And it wasn't just Malika. Another person who has been targeted time and time and time again by those very channels and more, First Take host, former NFL Network host, Molly Qerim. They talk about how Molly is in the wrong all the time. And look, you could have your fair critiques of Molly. As they say, keep it in bounds. You know? It doesn't have to get super personal. But they do. They attack her for her looks. They call her dumb. They latch on to the narrative of women don't know ball. It's outlandish. Like she didn't deserve that chair to be in that spot, to be that host of First Take. They don't think so. It's a shame. So Molly Qerim was targeted by those channels as well. For the restraining order, George Fong, and this is where you need to pay attention, the director of security at the Four Letter Network said he noticed the messages in September of 2022, and he would tell the Post, Abubakar would frequently post threatening and harassing messages towards 3 ESPN employees, tracking their location, noting he was seeking their personal contact info, and stating he was trying to meet them in person. One message from Abubakar at Malika_Andrews. Somehow it appears there's a barrier ESPN NBA media sports journalists create with fans, as when I called to let you know that you were willing to cut calls short before I reminded you about fact to stop bringing up negative old news, seeming to reference at the time Brandon Miller. There's a direct line here with all of the Reddit posts, all of the videos, all of them. It's going to lead to something. And we have to stop this. And it has to happen now.
You find acceptance behind a phone, which, will put you in a very depressing state easier.
It puts me in one now.
Yeah.
Even going through, if you look at edited images and all of these things, you see yourself back. That was something on TV that I didn't necessarily think that I was going to have to combat. Is seeing myself on TV, and as someone who struggles with my body image, being like, that's what I look. That's this person said. That's what I look like. That's that. Like seeing that mirrored back to me at times, I have to kind of take that piece out of it because. No, that's something that I didn't expect to be hard for me. That sometimes is, and we get two jobs, right? Like as Monty Williams always says, we get two jobs, not have two jobs, and we're so lucky to get to do that. And that doesn't mean that you're not still holding the parts of it that are a little ugly or a little challenging or a little difficult, and that kind of goes back to what you're saying about basketball. So many people are going to look at you and say, "What do you have to complain about? What do you have to be upset about? What do you have to be?" And sometimes you just are. Sometimes that's just your makeup. Sometimes that's just your chemistry. Sometimes that's just what's going on. And there's no rhyme or reason or why. It's just, this is what it is. And now you have to kind of, deal with it.
If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.